This is 201.6.8. Okay, we're wrapping up good here. And this is like one of the bigger, more important sections here. Um, he was determined to make his way forward to his sister and tug at her skirt and show her how he might come into his room, how she might come into his room with her violin, as no one appreciated her playing here as much as he would. He would never let her out of his room, not while he lived anyway. His shocking appearance should for once be of some use to him. He wanted to be at every door of his room at once to hiss and spit at the attackers. His sister should not be forced to stay with him, though, but stay of her own free will. She would sit beside him on the couch with her ear bent down to him while he told her how he had always intended to send her to the music conservatory, how he would have told everyone about it last Christmas, if this misfortune had not gotten in the way, and refused to let anyone dissuade him from it. On hearing this, his sister would break into tears of emotion. Gregor would climb to her shoulder and kiss her neck, and which, since she had been going out to work, she had kept free without any necklace or collar. Fucking Kafka. Oh my god. Like, I've spent a huge amount of time trying to make you feel bad for Gregor, right? Like, he's a cockroach and people treat him like shit. And it's a metaphor for treating all kinds of people who are not like you like shit. Including, I added homeless people into the mix of things that homeless people we often find disgusting. But I sort of spent so much time making you feel bad for him, so I can just because I think it's a story about sympathy and a lack of sympathy for people who are different than you are, just like the X-Men is, and also about how the fact that being different maybe has some advantages, like maybe it's good to be a cockroach. Um, and then Kafka Kafka never allows anything to be easy. That's a moment that now I don't like Gregor now. Because Kafka's never simple. We expect good guys and bad guys and simple, clear lessons, and Kafka does not give us simple, clear lessons. This is a guy who wrote a story about a guy who turns into a bug for no reason. So obviously, this is not a story with a simple lesson. But it's just a disturbing image. It's that Gregor is like, nobody appreciates my sister's beautiful music like me. I'm going to take her into her room and keep everyone away from her and kiss her neck. Like, like that's now pushed it too far for me, right? And this is what Kafka does. Um, he makes it complicated. Um, Gregor this problem does not have a simple solution, and also like the people that you know this too, that like you may try to have sympathy for people who are not like you. It doesn't mean you're going to enjoy hanging out with them. It doesn't mean they don't have their own disgusting issues, and they're people, right? So all these people I've been talking about, queer people and fat people and old people and people with dealing with mental disabilities and physical disabilities and deformities and homeless people, they're not saints that you should take care of and feel great in your heart. They're people, which means they have their own fucked up things like every person has. And Gregor that is just a really fucked up image of like a giant cockroach like kissing this girl's neck, his sister. It feels very sexual. And we already know Gregor doesn't seem to have a lot of sexual or romantic experience, and in the only objects he liked that hat girl and was too slow to ask her out, or get together with her, and he likes this picture he saw in a magazine, because that's like as close to human contact as he could get, and now it's just his sister is all that's left, and he seems to dream about taking her into his room and telling her how much he adores her and kissing her neck as a giant cockroach, and like something has gone wrong with Gregor too. Like, this is not a simple story. It's not a story about a wonderful sweet bug that everybody treats like shit. Gregor's a person too, which means Gregor's got all the same fucked upness that when we say have sympathy for people who are not like you, we mean don't treat them like animals. They're people. But of course, people doesn't mean they're saints. It doesn't mean they're perfect. It doesn't mean they're wonderful all the time. They're gonna be fucked up too, like anybody. It's just, oh god, it's so disturbing that he does that, and it's right at the moment when I'm feeling most bad for him. Like, it's right that when he's dirty and neglected and he feels the spiritual possibility of music, and I'm like, oh, Gregor, I'm on your side. And he's like, boy, I want to take my sister into my room and kiss her neck and not let anybody near her. And I'm like, oh, God, what was I thinking? uh, Kafka makes things complicated, and I like that. I often feel like movies and stories and things, they're too simple. There's the good guys and the bad guys, and the good guys win, and it's all over. Good movies are more complex than that. Black Panther, for example. There's a good guy, Black Panther, and there's a bad guy, Killmonger. Killmonger makes a lot of good points. And like, I don't think I wanted him to win exactly, but kind of I did. They both have good points to make, Black Panther and Killmonger. And this is a little bit like that. It's like what if the bad guy's making really good points? Right? What if the guy I feel sympathetic for is also a creep? Like, oh, That's why Killmonger is one of Marvel's best villains. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. We're doing good. Oh, and here's one of those moments I was saying about the guys being exactly the same all the time. The two friends joined in with the words, and we also give immediate notice. Like they're just exactly the same all the time. Um, all right, and then we get into the climax of the story. This is the big moment where Greta says, I don't want to call this monster my brother. All I can say is we have to try and get rid of it. We've done all that's humanly possible to look after it and be patient, and I don't think anyone could accuse us of doing anything wrong. Irony. Because she says they've done everything they can, and I don't think she has. She says they haven't done anything wrong, and I think they have done some shit wrong. How about never speaking to your son? How about not going in to look after him? How's that for doing something wrong? You did not do everything humanly possible. They earlier defined doing the maximum possible as suppressing their disgust. That's irony because they're like, we've done everything. Like, dude, no, you haven't. You've barely done anything, you assholes. Um, oh god, I love the story so much. But there's also the crucial line there. She says, "I don't want to call this monster my brother." It's a really interesting way to put that. She doesn't say that's not my brother. She says, "I don't want to call that my brother." So it's like this is not a moment where she's. It's not like she just realized that that's not really her brother. It's a monster that replaced her brother. She says, "I don't want to call that my brother." She is choosing to define him as not her brother anymore. It's basically like saying, I don't even have a brother anymore. And that happens in families, right? People go, I'm gay. And they go, you know what? I disown you. I don't even have a brother anymore. That's what Greta's doing to Gregor. She's completely like, she refuses to. And once, if he's, and here's the thing, they only have to take care of him because he's a family member. What if they decide he's not a family member anymore? You're no son of mine. Then they have no duty to take care of him. And they were barely taking care of him as it was. But they felt like they had a duty to suppress their disgust and try to be patient because he was a family member. But what if they said, I disown you, you're not a family anymore, not a family member anymore. Now they don't have a duty to take care of him anymore, and they can finally get rid of him. And they get rid of him in a very Kafka way. They don't throw him out, they don't kill him, they make him feel super guilty until he dies. Um, he essentially dies of guilt. We have to try and get rid of it. It'll be the death of both of you. We can't all work as hard as we have and then come home to be tortured like this. We can't endure it. Remember when Gregor was the guy working hard all the time? Um, and then Gregor's, if he could just understand us, repeated Gregor's father. He can understand you. It's just that you haven't spent enough time with him to figure that out. How hard would it be to figure out that he can understand you? You could just tell him, Gregor, go left. He goes left. Gregor, go right, go right. And then you'd be like, oh, I guess he understands me. They won't, they haven't even gotten that far. That's a trick you could teach a dog, right? Like dogs understand you. Like they understand some things, not all things. But if you go, I'm going to go to the store, and the dog goes, store. Dogs know the word store. There could be something fun there to eat. You want to go for a walk? Walk. So like there are ways of testing people. There are ways of testing whether animals don't speak, but there are ways of testing whether they can understand you, and dogs can absolutely understand you. Not all the words, but if you say the word walk and the dog thinks, oh, time to go for a walk, they know that word. Um, okay, cool. Um, you've got to get rid of the idea that it's Gregor. See, once more again, they're not saying it's not Gregor. They're just saying stop thinking of it as if it were Gregor, right? So they're choosing, again, they're not realizing this isn't their family member. They're choosing to define him as outside the family, right? Um, people do this. People do this all the time where they go, like in Christianity, you're commanded to um, all men are your brothers, which sounds really nice. Treat all human beings like they're your brothers. But there's a dark side to that, which is that if a person is not your brother, they're not even a person. And you see lots of people who will define groups of like racial groups, be like that racial group, Jews or blacks or whatever, they're not even people, they're animals or whatever. And it's how you define them as outside the human race so that you can turn them into slaves or gas them in chambers or whatever the fuck you want to do. Kafka's whole family, by the way, Kafka died right before World War II of tuberculosis in his 40s, and nobody wishes Kafka lived longer because everybody in his family was murdered by the Nazis. They all died in death camps and gassed to death. Kafka was Jewish. Okay, I'll pick it up in the next video.